Have you ever wondered why, in so many years of Gunsmoke, Sheriff Matt Dillon, played by James Arness, never kissed Miss Kitty? Well, that mystery has spanned decades and to this day sparks heated debates among fans of the series. But the truth goes far beyond a simple script decision or a lack of chemistry. In today's video, we're going to reveal the hidden and highly controversial reasons behind James Arness's surprising choice. Some say it involved wounded pride, tense behind-the-scenes moments, and even a possible silent rivalry with Amanda Blake, the actress who brought the iconic Miss Kitty to life. Others point to contract clauses, personal conflicts, and even studio pressures that prefer to keep an unconsummated romance to maintain the audience's interest. But was that really all? Or was there something darker, more personal, that never came to light until now? Before we move forward with these bombshell revelations, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. It really helps YouTube understand that our content has value, and that way it shows this video to more people interested in behind-the-scenes secrets like this one. And if you'd like to support the channel even more, consider leaving a super thanks. It makes all the difference so we can continue bringing deep, investigative, and uncensored content. But if you can't, no problem at all. Just leave a comment below telling us what surprised you most about this story. Your participation is also super important. Now, hold on tight, because the final revelation in this video will completely change the way you see the relationship between Matt Dillon and Miss Kitty, and maybe even James Arness himself. So watch until the end, because what's coming next will leave any Gunsmoke fan absolutely stunned. During the 2 decades that Gunsmoke was on the air, from 1955 to 1975, fans followed with fascination the tense relationship, full of glances and restrained gestures, between Sheriff Matt Dillon and the charming saloon owner, Miss Kitty. But despite all that silent chemistry, there was never a kiss between them. That's right. In 20 years of the show, we never saw Matt kiss Miss Kitty. What's most curious, and even ironic, is that there actually was a kiss in Gunsmoke, but with another woman. The only time Matt Dillon kissed someone in the series was in the episode Matt's Love Story, which aired in 1973, during the 19th season. In that episode, Matt is gravely wounded and ends up being rescued by a woman named Mike Yardner, played by actress Michael Learned, yes, the same one who became famous as a mother in the Waltons. The character takes care of Dillon tenderly during his recovery process, and between the two a true feeling is born, something that until then was rarely shown with such emotion in Gunsmoke. And it was in this context that the only kiss of Matt Dillon in the entire series happened. The kiss was simple but loaded with meaning, and it caught many fans by surprise, especially because it was not with Miss Kitty, the woman who for so long seemed to hold the sheriff's heart and mind. That moment was so striking that it is still a topic of discussion among the show's longtime fans. Why was able to kiss Mike Yardner, a character who appeared in only one episode, and never Kitty, who stood by his side for practically the whole series? The impact of the kiss was so great that it generated repercussions off-screen as well. Michael Learned, in later interviews, revealed that James Arness was so impressed with the chemistry between them that he even invited her out in real life after the filming. The actress, who at the time was going through a separation from her husband, politely declined, but revealed that she found Arness to be a kind, reserved, and extremely professional man. This episode ended up going down in history as one of the most pattern-breaking within the traditional narrative of Gunsmoke, precisely because it broke away from the idea that Matt Dillon had to remain emotionally inaccessible. The relationship between Matt Dillon and Miss Kitty in Gunsmoke is, without a doubt, one of the greatest and most intriguing mysteries in the history of television. Throughout the 20 seasons of the series, fans witness a unique dynamic marked by glances, gestures, and nonverbal communication intensely charged with meaning. Although there was never a kiss or an explicit confirmation of romance between the two characters, the tension that existed between them was palpable and full of unspoken emotions. This tacit relationship, composed of glances, flirtation, and small interactions, became one of the greatest strengths of the series, keeping the audience always eager for more. From the very beginning, viewers noticed the chemistry between Matt Dillon, the imposing and solitary sheriff of Dodge City, and Miss Kitty, the saloon owner, a strong and independent woman, but also sensitive and caring. What made this chemistry so special was the fact that it was not expressed in conventional ways. There were no kisses or declarations of romantic love. What existed between them was something more subtle, a relationship built through small but meaningful gestures, exchanged glances, and moments of silent complicity. A classic example of this interaction was the way the two looked at each other. The glances were, without a doubt, one of the most powerful forms of communication between Matt and Kitty. In many scenes, they exchanged looks that said everything without a single word being spoken. Those looks carried deep emotions of affection, concern, desire, and even frustration, depending on the situation. Many times, those glances were enough to convey what words could not express, making it clear that although there was profound attraction between them, something prevented them from moving forward. The looks were always charged with emotional tension, creating a mystery that surrounded both the characters and the audience. This type of tacit flirtation became the hallmark of their relationship. The small gestures, the conversations full of subtext, and the silent interactions between Matt and Kitty kept the romantic tension in the air, never allowing it to be fully consummated. It was a constant flirtation, a subtle exchange of signals, which made fans wonder with every episode. Will they finally declare themselves? Will it happen this time? And that's what kept the audience engaged. The constant uncertainty, the eternal question of if, when, and how their relationship might evolve. But at the same time, this relationship was never meant to be resolved. The intention of the Gunsmoke writers was precisely to maintain the mystery, which gave an air of elegance to their connection. Instead of rushing things, the producers knew that by not resolving the romance between Matt and Kitty, they were creating an engaging mystery that fueled viewers' imaginations. Their conversations were often intensely charged, with both showing mutual care and respect, but never crossing the line into explicit romance. This ensured that, over the years, interest in their relationship remained high, never becoming predictable. The dynamic between Matt and Kitty was built on a foundation of deep respect. Although Matt was a sheriff and, in many episodes, played the role of protector and leader, his relationship with Kitty revealed a side of him that was more vulnerable and human. He trusted her, respected her judgment, and knew that, although she was an independent and strong woman, she would always stand by his side, both in times of conflict and in moments of calm. Kitty, in turn, also trusted Matt, but her relationship with him was never one of submission. She was always a woman with her own agenda and a strong sense of independence, which made her one of the most interesting characters in the series. Between the two, there was no need for a kiss for the audience to know what was at stake. The implicit flirtation between Matt and Kitty was enough to convey the depth of what they felt for each other. The absence of a kiss made their relationship even more fascinating. Instead of turning it into a cliched romance, the writers managed to build a storyline that kept the audience on the edge of their seats, always in suspense, never providing a definitive answer. That mystery created by the absence of a kiss made the few moments of closeness between them even more significant. This choice also reflected the nature of Gunsmoke as a Western drama. The series was not built solely on themes of romance or personal relationships, but on larger conflicts, issues of morality, justice, duty, and survival. Matt Dillon, as the sheriff, had a role that went far beyond that of a man in love, and this was the main reason why the romance with Kitty never materialized in conventional form. If he fully surrendered to that relationship, it could have weakened his image as a leader, as a symbol of strength and control. Kitty, likewise, was much more than a woman waiting for a man. She was a businesswoman, a woman of character, and an essential character for the narrative. Thus, what Gunsmoke fans witnessed over the years was a relationship built on mutual respect, unresolved tension, and tacit flirtation. Matt and Kitty never needed a kiss or a formal commitment for the love between them to be clear, because a true romance was in small interactions, the gentle touch of hands, the furtive glances, and the unspoken words. The phrase, "you could only go so far," perfectly sums up the limitations of production of Gunsmoke imposed on the development of the relationship between Matt Dillon and Miss Kitty. Although the series was an enormous success, with a loyal audience throughout its 2 decades on the air, the producers were very aware that they had created something very special between the main characters, something that should not be resolved hastily or conventionally. The relationship between Matt and Kitty was more than simple flirtation or friendship. It was a symbol of emotional and moral tension, which needed to be maintained throughout the series in order to preserve the dynamics of the narrative. The production of Gunsmoke, under the direction of producers such as Norman Macdonald and John Meston, knew that what made the show unique was not only the dramatic situations or the cases of crime and justice in the Old West, but also the unresolved relationship between Matt and Kitty, a relationship that would never materialize in a conventional way. You Could Only Go So Far reflected exactly that philosophy. That is, there were clear limits to how deep the relationship between the two characters could go, especially when it came to public displays of affection, such as kisses or explicit declarations of love. As much as the writers wanted the audience to feel the growing tension between Matt and Kitty, they could not provide a complete answer, because that would undermine the very essence of what made their relationship so fascinating. The main reason for this decision was the nature of the series itself. Gunsmoke was, at its core, both a Western and a crime drama, and the character Matt Dillon, played by James Arness, embodied law and order in the Old West. He was not a romantic hero, in the traditional sense. Dillon was a man of principle, a solid figure of authority, constantly faced with moral dilemmas and dangerous situations. Putting Matt Dillon in a fully realized romantic relationship could have diluted that image of the impartial, unyielding sheriff. The audience was used to seeing him as someone who had absolute control over his emotions and decisions, and a kiss or resolved romance with Kitty would have put that status at risk. Furthermore, the production strategy was to sustain the drama and interest through mystery and tension. Matt and Kitty were always on the verge of romance, but never able to take that step, and that generated constant anticipation among viewers, who found themselves immersed in a relationship that, although increasingly palpable, never crossed the boundaries imposed by the series. The exchanged glances, the dialogue filled with subtext, and the subtle gestures were enough to create a deep emotional connection, without the need to break the social and moral protocols of the time. Gunsmoke knew that anticipation is as powerful as fulfillment. This was one of the secrets of the series' success. Never allowing the story to go beyond the point that fans wanted, but always leaving them eager for the next episode. Always wondering if, finally, Matt and Kitty would take the step that seemed obvious, but never happened. Beyond narrative strategy, there were also issues related to morality of the era and to the censorship structures of 1950s and 1960s television. The production of Gunsmoke was deeply embedded in a time when, although television was becoming a powerful cultural force, the boundaries of moral behavior and what was acceptable for a popular show were very rigid. The audience of Gunsmoke was largely composed of families, and the values of respect, dignity, and self-control were essential to the show's success. Any excessive display of affection, especially in a program centered on a tough sheriff like Matt Dillon, could have been seen as breaking with the social norms of the time. Therefore, the relationship with Miss Kitty could never be fully resolved. What many do not know is that the actors themselves, James Arness and Amanda Blake, who played Miss Kitty, never expected their characters to become explicitly romantically involved. In several interviews, both mentioned that, despite the evident chemistry between them, they always felt that the beauty of Matt and Kitty's relationship lay precisely in its incompleteness. Arness, for example, often said that the charm of the relationship was in what was left unsaid, in the moments of shared silence, which spoke louder than any kiss ever could. They had a deep mutual respect. But at the same time, the mysterious, unfulfilled desire was what kept audiences connected to the storyline for so many years. The production of Gunsmoke also realized that the lack of resolution in their relationship was a crucial factor for the success of the series. The growing tension between the characters created a dynamic of emotional suspense that stretched across the seasons, sustaining audience interest. If the producers had allowed Matt and Kitty to marry or declare their love, it would have completely altered the tone of the program. What made Gunsmoke so enduring was its ability to balance action and drama with implicit romance, letting the audience feel that the desire between Matt and Kitty was real, but always restrained, always on the verge of happening. The love story of Matt Dillon in Gunsmoke is one of the most intriguing and at the same time most mysterious narratives in American television. The series always explored the emotional tension between the main characters, especially between Matt and Miss Kitty. But the romantic relationship of the sheriff of Dodge City was never formally consummated with her. The true love story of Matt Dillon, however, did not happen within the limits of Gunsmoke. To the surprise of many, the only significant kiss of Matt Dillon happened outside of Gunsmoke, in a special episode of another network series, and involved an actress with whom the audience was not accustomed to seeing him romantically. This story took place in the series The Waltons, where Matt Dillon, played by James Arness, shared a kiss with Michael Learned, the actress who portrayed Olivia Walton in the series. The special episode of The Waltons, entitled The Last Summer, aired in 1975. In this story, James Arness made a guest appearance as a man named John, who became the romantic interest of Olivia Walton, played by Michael Learned. This episode marked a unique moment in James Arness's career, as it was the first time the audience saw the actor who played Sheriff Matt Dillon with a real and visible romantic interest, culminating in a kiss. The choice of Michael Learned as Arness's romantic partner in this episode is remarkable, considering that the actress was known for her role as the matriarch in The Waltons, which, in many ways, represented a very different role for what Kitty represented for Dillon. But what made this kiss so significant was the fact that it was performed by a character who had never shown such romantic involvement in his own series. In Gunsmoke, Matt Dillon never allowed himself to show that kind of emotional vulnerability. The series always kept his relationship with Miss Kitty on the verge of romance, but never actually allowed it to be consummated. The tension between the two, full of glances and silent gestures, was always a central feature of the plot. That is why the idea of seeing Matt Dillon kissing another woman in a different series was such a shocking event for many Gunsmoke fans, who were used to seeing him as a strong and emotionally controlled figure devoted to his duty as sheriff, and never fully yielding to his feelings. That kiss in The Waltons was a rare and unique moment, since, during the 2 decades of Gunsmoke, Matt Dillon never demonstrated affection in such an explicit way. He never kissed Miss Kitty or made any romantic gesture that went beyond the limits established by the production. This was largely due to philosophy behind Gunsmoke, which sought to maintain romance and tension unresolved in order to keep the audience hooked by the uncertainty of their relationship. The context of The Waltons was different from Gunsmoke, and this allowed James Arness to portray a more uncomplicated and emotionally available character. The Waltons dealt with family relationships in a warmer and more affectionate way, and Arness had the opportunity to explore a softer side of his range, something that was not possible in the role of Matt Dillon. Nevertheless, this kiss with Michael Learned also reflects part of the humanity that, in a way, the character of Matt Dillon never got to explore within the Gunsmoke universe. In the Old West, Dillon was a symbol of self-discipline, always immersed in his role as sheriff and in his mission to ensure justice and order, which meant his emotional side had to be controlled and almost repressed. But in The Waltons, Arness's character had the chance to show more genuine warmth and affection. The kiss with Michael Learned is, without a doubt, a significant moment, because it finally offered fans a glimpse of what a full romantic relationship would have been like for Matt Dillon, something that Gunsmoke viewers had hoped for years, but which never materialized. Unlike Gunsmoke, where he never crossed a line with Kitty, in The Waltons he allowed himself to be more vulnerable and even showed a side of his personality that had until then been restrained by the strict work ethic and morality of his sheriff role. This kiss represented a kind of release for the character who was used to being strong and stoic, but in the context of a different narrative, finally allowed himself to be something more human, fallible, and, in a sense, loving. It is interesting to note that throughout James Arness's career, he became synonymous with strength and dignity, but also with a certain kind of emotional loneliness. Matt Dillon never had a true happy ending, in conventional sense of a romance culminating in marriage or something similar. His relationship with Miss Kitty was always full of unfulfilled promises, moments of tenderness and affection, but always weighed down by duty. For many Gunsmoke fans, the kiss in The Waltons was a symbolic way of seeing Matt Dillon finally giving space to his feelings in a way that was never possible in his own series. In short, the kiss with Michael Learned was more than just a romantic scene in an episode of The Waltons. It represented the release of a character who had always been confined to his role as sheriff, and who, in another narrative, could finally experience the kind of affection and emotional connection that had always been denied to him. For Gunsmoke fans, this moment was a temporary relief, a way of seeing James Arness in a new light, exploring a side of Matt Dillon that was never allowed within the rigidity of the Old West. And although Matt Dillon's romance with Miss Kitty was never resolved in Gunsmoke, the kiss with Michael Learned in The Waltons remained as a symbol of a love story that could have been a story that, perhaps, if Matt had had the chance to live in another context, would have been much more explicit and open. And so we come to the end of this mystery about why James Arness never kissed Miss Kitty in Gunsmoke. As we have seen, the tension between the two characters was carefully maintained for more than 20 years, making their relationship one of the most iconic in television history. Although the chemistry between Matt Dillon and Kitty was evident, the producers, and even the actors themselves, chose to keep that relationship always in the air, never giving the resolution that everyone expected. If you were surprised by this story or have another theory about the romance between Matt and Kitty, leave your comment. We love to know what you think about this eternal tension. Don't forget to give a like if you enjoyed the video. And if you're new here, subscribe to the channel. Your subscription is essential so that we can continue bringing more videos like this one. Each time you subscribe, the channel gains more visibility and can reach more people who, just like you, love stories behind our favorite shows. And if you could support the channel even more, leave a super thanks. This will help us keep creating quality content for you. And before you leave, I invite you to watch the next video that's appearing on the screen. It's even more interesting and exciting than this one. I'm sure you're going to love it. See you in the next video, and thank you for being part of our community.